On this Warhammer 40K competitive battle report, we have the Necron Starshatter Arsenal versus the World Eaters Bezerker Warband. All right. So if you're wondering how these two armies match up against each other, you're going to want to stick around because I'm going to take this 3 hour game. We're going to condense it down into roughly 20 minutes, giving you what worked, what didn't work, and simply passing that knowledge on to you. So, because I truly believe if one of us gets better, then we all get better. So, enough of the intro. Let's just freaking get into this game. So real talk for a second. I was definitely like 20 minutes into this report, and I totally did not hit the record button. So I love you guys, and we are just gonna start from the top, and we are recording this again. So here we go. So we have Scorched Earth, we have Search and Destroy, we have a layout for GW. I mostly play GW layout just because I'm here in the US, and we are prepping for the US Open coming up. Very excited. So seeing a lot of painted armies on the table, and getting just a good practice game in here against the Bezerker Warband. And this is post FAQ, so with the Demonkin changes and the Forge Fiend changes, or the Overwatch Forge Fiend changes, all that good stuff. So let's get into this game here. So more or less what I'm thinking about in this matchup, we always talk about with melee matchups, you know, the biggest things you want to do is measure their threat ranges. So the biggest things that I'm worried about is the Berserkers here with the character, the Demon Prince, and some of his 8-bound with characters here. You know, these are his big hammer units that if I let both of those units connect into like the race or something juicy like the king, I could just lose that resource, and we don't want that, especially early in the game. So against World Eaters, you really want to, you know, push your trading pieces aggressively. So we have flayed ones here, we have Locust Destroyers, little stuff, and just let him hit that. Because a lot of times you're going to be able to have usually more units than World Eaters, so you can a lot of times win the trade war early and then force them to come out with some more juicier stuff. So this is a very good practice game, very close, which will be a very good one to talk about here. So let's flip over to the game, and it goes 85-83 to the World Eaters, y'all. All right. So getting into this game, the definitely some learning opportunities for the Crons, which would be really good to talk about. But you know, Devin played this very well, and you know, going second in this game is good, especially on Scorched Earth. It's just good, but that is definitely not why we lost. All right, so this was hilarious. So going into this game, looking at deployment, see the flayed ones up here. I originally had the flayed ones down here. And I specifically told Devin, like right after deployment, hey, do you mind if I just move them up over here? And he's like, yeah, dude, totally fine. And I specifically told him, I was like, yeah, you know, there's a world where I maybe draw tempting target first turn, and like it'd be nice if I could just like get them on the objective and they just get 5 points. Like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I move him there, and then sure enough, first turn I draw tempting target. So out of spite, it was hilarious because instead of making this one tempting target, he made the center a tempting target. So he's like, yeah, that's what you get, man. So that was kind of hilarious. So going into the game, we have first turn and attempting target and assassination. So we are going to basically move up our Locust Destroyer for attempting target, and we're going to cycle assassination for a CP. This is something that I've been like stressing on the channel with challenger cards in play now. You need to be very aware of not going up too many points early. Perfect example, if I drew tempting target and secure no man's land first turn, I want to score one of those cards, not both of those cards, because you don't want to just give your opponent a free challenger card usually out the gate. And a lot of times those secondary cards, they force you to do more than maybe you need to the first turn, like, you know, getting things on objectives, that sort of thing, when maybe you don't need to. Okay, so just one thing to point out. Now, the other thing to point out is with Starshatter is one skill that I think it helps you develop very quickly is understanding firing lanes. It's very important, and especially with DDAs when you're deploying them, is you always need to think about where their first turn move is going to be and where they're going to go. And with Starshatter, it's nice because you do have the flat 6 advance, so they're able to move 16 inches. So you can see here we have the flexibility for this DDA to essentially cover these firing angles turn 1. I could even flexibly like move it up here and then cover this lane. And then same thing with this DDA. It can move up here, cover this lane, and you can see how we got all of our angles covered here, okay? So very important thing to point out in deployment. And our Wraith package right here, as you'd expect, is going to be going towards our natural expansion. Now, if you're new here, natural expansion essentially means it's like a StarCraft term, and it's just referring to what objective is usually closest to your deployment zone, okay? So Wraiths are going to go up here. We're going to put just one Wraith on the point. It's going to be OC3. Spawn are only OC1. So we are just making sure that no matter what, first turn, he's not able to put enough OC on this objective to take it over. That's a very good question to ask your opponent. Also, if you're relatively new or a beginner, is in the first turn, especially if you're going first, asking your opponent, hey, what realistically, how much OC could you put on this objective turn 1? And they should be able to give you that answer, so then you can make the appropriate decision of what you want to actually put on there to make sure that you're going to hold primary, okay? So this is essentially the turn. We do some indirect at the spawn, and we pass it over to him, okay? So he's going to stage up, and he is going to get Secure No Man's Land and Cleanse. So same type of idea here. He doesn't want to go super high up early, so he's going to get Secure for 5. He's going to love an extra CP. I'm also very open and honest. Cleanse is probably one of the worst cards in the deck. Just me personally, just my opinion, I hate that card. Whenever I see it, I just cycle it. It's a trap. And I'm going to actually explain why it's a trap later in this game. All right. I have a really good example to point out of why I just do not like that card. So he's going to stage up here. He fails, unfortunately, a 8-inch rerollable on the spawn. The spawn are going to connect here, and the Goremongers are going to connect here. Okay? So we're going to see this play out here. Spawn are way more lethal in Bezerker Warband than they are in Demonkin because they have the +2 strength, +1 attack. So just remember that. They can hit a lot harder. Okay? So he picks up those 2 resources as expected, and he's going to pass it over to me. All right? So we're going to get a 10 on primary. We're going to get Defend Stronghold, and we're going to get Sabotage. So pretty straightforward turn. Defend Stronghold, easy, 3 points. We're going to move the race up on one of these footprints right here. And then, again, another 3 points very easily, okay? And again, you're seeing here that we're intentionally staying outside of his threat ranges right now. I don't want him to get like a cheeky ingress play and just be able to connect with a ton of stuff. And, you know, catching me on the back foot early, we don't want any of that. So basically this turn, really all we're looking to do is kill the spawn, kill this, and pass it over to him. It's only turn 2, okay? Don't really need to push yet. Just get some stuff off the board, force him to make some decisions. So that more or less happens. Very easy to do. He rapid ingresses in a Mauler Fiend right here, which I thought was solid. We put a Locust Destroyer right here just to push back the screen here, which was good. In hindsight, though, I don't think I really needed to do that, just because, like, if he does put the, like, he's not going to rapid ingress like a Forge Fiend, or like he could put a Forge Fiend or Mauler Fiend like back here, but it's like, okay, cool, like that's fine. So in hindsight, probably really didn't need to do this, but it's all good. That's right. This is why we're here. That's why we're learning. See, even players that play all the time, we make little mistakes. That's why we love this game. It's just like, I feel like you never just have like a perfect game in Warhammer. Like if you feel like you had a perfect game, like you're doing something wrong, because there's just so many like decision points. It's great. So going into, let's see here. So going into turn 3. Okay, this is where I made the biggest mistake. So we got a 10 on primary, and we got Bring It Down and Overwhelming Force. Okay, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, let the cards guide you. All right, so this was a clutch play here where we rapid ingress in a DDA, and we are just going to flat 6 advance it to make sure that we can get on this objective and where we need to in my turn. So it gives me the flexibility to fire at the Exalted 8-bound and then also use my Gauze Flare Array at the Jackals in the back to just pick maybe some of them up. I won't pick all of them up, but a decent amount just to kind of limit his board control and just his unit count, right? So but the problem is that I needed to move this DDA back here to make sure that I could kill this Mauler Fiend for bring it down, because this was a problem here. Okay, I'm realizing that we're not ahead on pictures here. The Mauler Fiend did some work on these race. He killed like 4 race and a Crypto Thrall. I rolled slightly below average, but just FYI, these guys can hit, especially in Berserker. So that was good to see. But as you can see, Wraith's doing Wraith things, and they're just back. Okay, I saw nothing. Okay, the race. I know. I know Art of War. They were talking about some free plug to Art of War. Man, they are a phenomenal resource. Definitely go check them out. They were talking about race, and you know, this. You see these pictures here. This is why people hate race. Like I fully get it. I fully understand. I'm fully on board. But like at the same time, like I gotta play it. I gotta play it. So race are back. We're gonna put the DD on the objective here. And the biggest mistake is the king should have pushed this way and not back this way to give the DDA auras. In general, you never really want to move backwards mid-game for the most part. I mean, it's very situational, but because then you're spending essentially 2 turns almost getting back to where you started, if that makes sense, because you only have 5 times to move, right, if you think about it, or maybe a little bit more if you count heroic intervene. But the Silent King should have moved up. And the reason for this is because the Silent King with -1 damage, I needed to threat overload this a little bit stronger than I did. Because he can kill a DDA or he can kill the Silent King, but he can't kill both. And maybe that's, I don't know. It's tough to say because he essentially had a Forge Fiend in reserve. So the idea of a Forge Fiend, this, and a Mauler Fiend coming up, I don't know. Maybe that wouldn't be a good play. It is tough because I needed to force him out in some way. So, but we'll talk about that more as the game unfolds here. So that does end up happening exactly what we wanted. So we killed the Mauler Fiend. We got Overwhelming Force because we killed the Exalted, and we killed like 6 Jackals with the Gauss Flare. So that was like great. So bottom of turn 3, he doesn't really have a lot left, but you can also see, like, I mean, look at where my line of scrimmage is here, so you guys can like visually see this. Like, this is not the best right now, okay? And this is like really cool for you guys to see is like we should have been somewhere up here, like in like a threat overload situation. I think this was like the most glaring problem that I'm seeing from the board is that I needed to put my units in a better position to kind of threat overload him in this situation, because it's just too it's too stalematy, and he had bottom of turn and I didn't. So going into bottom of 3, he is going to get Sabotage and Extend Battle Line, so pretty easy. He already holds 2 objectives. And he has the Mauler Fiend here, which is going to move up and just pop this DDA. He also has the Demon Prince here, which is a super clutch move. So Demon Prince is within the Exalted 8-bound, so it gives him Lone Up, but then he's also 9 inches covering the objective. So he prevents myself from dropping in Ophidians via Deep Strike to take over that sticky objective, but he's also not on the point, so he doesn't give me Storm Hostile Overwhelming Force. Very good play. Very good synergies there to highlight of things that World Eaters can do. All right. Now, if you're wondering if a Mauler Fiend can kill a DDA, the answer is yes, without question. Now, granted, he had a Forge Fiend backing him up as well, but I think the Mauler Fiend by himself could still kill a DDA. So they're pretty solid in this detachment. So we rapid ingress in some Tomb Blades. We're going to talk about them in a second here. I think that was the other error of the game. And we're going to go into turn 4. So turn 4, we're going to get a 10 on primary. And we are going to get Cull the Horde, which we can't do. We get Cleanse and Establish Locus. Now, this was the one turn that I paused for probably a good 2 to 3 minutes to figure this out. Because mentally I was thinking, I was like, man, I need to do like a burn this turn. I have Cleanse and I have Establish Locus. So you see me trying to measure this pocket right here. And the problem is I couldn't fit Ophidians here, but even if I could, the Forge Fiend is just going to rip them apart probably in Overwatch. Like, he probably picks up the Ophidians, which is really annoying. The Forge Fiends are still really good in Overwatch. So I couldn't really get Locust, or I could get it for 2 points. So I ended up cycling Locust, and in hindsight, I probably should have cycled Cleanse. And I'm going to tell you why. So the plan was, I was like, okay, with Cleanse, I'm like, okay, I can flat 6 advance these guys over here. I can deny at least this point, even though it doesn't really matter because he still has this point right here. And then I can cleanse with like the reanimator on this objective. So at least it's an easy 5 points. But in hindsight, I should have cycled Cleanse and kept Locust. So then I would have had Locust and recover assets. The reason for that is because what ended up happening is, and this was a pretty quick turn for me. You're going to see me shift up. So the king moves up. Essentially, we fire. It's like massive overkill. We kill the smaller fiend. We have all of these targets right here. I can't get within lone op range of the Demon Prince, and this just shifts up right here. Okay. So basically, what ended up happening is we kill that, and next turn, bottom of turn 4, he draws Storm Hostile and Mark for Death. So what do you think he makes his gamma target for Mark for Death? It's the Tomb Blades. So now he gets an easy 4 points on Storm Hostile, and he gets an easy 2 points on the gamma target, right? So in hindsight, if I would have had them on Locust here, then at least he would have had to cycle Storm Hostile because there would have been no way he could have gotten that in turn 4. And maybe he got something else that he couldn't score. So maybe just a learning opportunity for me. I do love the Tomb Blades. They weren't highlighted the best this game, but they were so clutch in the RTT I played in a couple weeks ago, where there's just so many. Being able just to move 24 inches guaranteed on demand is just so powerful, especially with like a package that's 6OC. It's just very, very good. So going into that, he kills the Tomb Blades very easily. And then we're going to go into turn 5. So the biggest error of the game that I think would have swung it in the other direction is I got to remember that going first, like I was thinking in terms of myself going second, and I totally like kind of had a brain fart where burning the objective, I'm not going to obviously hold it because that happens at the end of the turn. So what ended up happening is I burn this objective in turn 4, and then I don't score it for primary in turn 5. So we only end up getting a 5 for the burn, which I guess technically, so I would have scored a 15 on turn 4 and then 5 points in turn 5 because I could drop the Ophidians here, but they're not going to get the burn off, and I couldn't get the race over to this objective, which would have been a simple fix where basically this move needed to happen in turn 4. So still burning this objective, or sorry, not burning the objective, but moving out. And then turn 5, having the flexibility for the race to come on and potentially burn it in turn 5. So I think it was just a little bit too late of too little too late kind of thing, was I think the theme of this game. And we basically talked it out from here, where he gets I had no prisoners, secure no man's land. So we got no prisoners for 2 because we killed, I think it was like, Scarbrand here. And then we held these 2 objectives. So he's going to get a 15 at the end, and he gets overwhelming and recover. So we agreed, yeah, he could totally kill the Ophidians here and the king, and called it a game. So 85-83 to the World Eaters. And yeah, just a couple things to highlight here. I think going back, this is also just like help myself personally, is I think this DDA probably should have been in a better spot to deny the center, where it's like, I guess thinking back to this here. So this DDA here could have probably been set up somewhere around here, relatively safe, because then it gives me the flexibility to still cover this lane over here if I need to by dropping in a DDA. But I think the biggest thing is I would have loved to have this be able to move onto this objective if I needed to for OC5. That also could have swung it the other way. I feel like there's a lot, which is good to see. Like, going back and don't, this is a good thing to point out for like newer players. Don't go back and like, oh man, like this like list sucks, like this just like didn't work. Like go back and reflect on, just maneuvers like I'm doing here, where there are probably some plays you could have done that would have swung it the other day. And it's really not a list problem. It was just like a movement and how you're using your pieces, right? Because by having this DDA here, yeah, it's nice. He's safe. He's getting all the synergies and everything else, but he's also not really doing anything other than that. Like you don't really need this screen here. Like he would have been much better positioned this way. So it gives you the flexibility to still, if you need to move him 16 or whatever, covering this firing line, or you need to pivot him and you blitz him down this way, right? But I think the biggest thing I was missing is being able for him to go this way. Because having him on that center or just like holding that down the whole time was annoying. Like I didn't really have another way to answer it. So good learning opportunity for me there. Or potentially, I mean, there's a world where like if we go back to deployment, I mean, there's maybe a world that the race just played the center. There's a possibility of that as well. But at the same time, like you don't want him to, like you don't want to lose them early. Like it's tough because you're like, oh, okay, if I string the race out, like if he double hits the Berserkers here, like with Berserkers and that, like they're probably dead. So tough call. But I think overall, great freaking game. Feeling good for Tacoma. And yeah, if you all stuck around this long, seriously, appreciate you watching. And as always, we will catch you in the next one.